Radio Free Cybertron.
Transformers.
Rewind.
This week on Transformers Rewind, it's the Rebirth from Generation 1.
Remove your heads. Let the transformations begin.
You know, Rebirth marked the end of the American G1 series. The end. So we'll see you next week.
All right, and see ya. Bye. Okay.
All right, that's it. That's Transformers Afterbirth.
I love Rebirth. I can't tell you how many times I've watched Rebirth over the years. Probably.
I enjoy.
I love it in the way that I love like a deformed dog.
Oh.
It has like 3 legs and like a missing ear. It's super cute, but man, it's ugly.
Well.
I think I have probably. I think I don't know that I love Rebirth as much as I used to like 10, 12 years ago, but I can watch it and enjoy it for what it is. And
I mean, it's just sitting there limping and hobbling along, but you're like, you just can't help but like, oh, look at it.
I think that I think my mind or my impression of Rebirth has sort of been colored in a negative way based on the Headmaster's Marvel comic, which I've over the years decided that I like better.
Oh yeah, well, Headmasters.
Oh yes.
Comics.
I mean,
yeah.
And also by the Headmaster's cartoon, which is just so radically different, but there's way more to it than Rebirth, and I just sort of gravitate toward that a little more now too. But I still really love Rebirth.
Rebirth is up against the fact that there's a lot of very different takes on the same characters, and that's really unique in a way that we don't have in a lot of other fiction, where it's like, you know, you have Rebirth, you have the Marvel comic, you have the Japanese version, and they all take the same thing and they do it in a really different way. And I don't know that any of them is particularly good. None of them really sort of like work. I really just kind of want to cut them up and like put them together, and like somewhere there's like a Franken Headmaster series that's actually good.
Between
continuity.
Yeah. So between recordings, we were talking about TV series that end on a cliffhanger, and they may not be picked up. So Rebirth is sort of weird. So the Return of Optimus Prime, you could almost see it was the end of season 3. It's almost a cliffhanger, but something big happens, and the series could have really ended there. I mean, there was a finite end. Rebirth was the beginning of season 4, and it was supposed to be like a big, you know, change and everything, but nothing came after. So it's kind of like things might have been better off if we'd ended it with the Return of Optimus Prime, but we got Rebirth, and it's a beautiful, unique snowflake. So
it feels like, I mean, it's always felt like a bridge to me. It's always felt like the end of season 3 was the end of Transformers. You know, the original series. It's always like Rebirth is sort of meant to be a bridge, like 3 episodes that bridges the gap between what would be, you know, like if it had gone on. Like, if there really was a season 4, and even though this is called season 4, it's more of what I would call it, like a prequel to the next series. It's like, if you went on, there would be, like, the next series that would go on somewhere in space, not Earth. And, like, Spike would be the leader of the Autobots, you know, with Cerebro or whatever. And you would have all of these Headmaster characters, and then you would get into Pretenders and Power Masters. All that stuff would become part of this next series. And it didn't happen.
So when I reflect back on G1, I kind of do stop at the end of Return of Optimus Prime. I love Rebirth, but I don't really sort of start back there. But Rebirth to me sort of begins like this new, not continuity, but new series that sort of kind of carried through the commercials, because we saw, the commercials. There was original animation for the commercials. There wasn't like a story arc, but we did get to see little flashes of things that Rebirth, in my mind, exists in that universe. So,
well, I never minded Rebirth's open. I mean, Rebirth was one I never saw as a child, So I only
I didn't either.
I sure did. I watched
it. It didn't exist to me until later. I was like, "What is this?" Like in college.
But I didn't know.
like
I
found
didn't
it.
know. I didn't know episodes existed after the movie until I was at least 15 or so.
I still feel like they don't. Anyway, okay.
Screw you, JD. Screw
yeah.
you with a broom handle. Seriously.
So
No, I always quite liked the open ending of Rebirth. I think that, though, is not... If I'd watched it at the time, maybe I would have felt different, but I think now, looking back on it, and knowing that Transformers did not stop there, and that the storyline went on to be about Pretenders and Power Masters and all these other crazy things, the fact that the cartoon did not go, and now Galvatron is destroyed, and peace reigns throughout the universe, the end... I like that because it means that there is room to imagine that all this crazy stuff that happened in the toys did go on to happen. You know, they didn't put that full stop at the end of the war. I'm sorry for Americans, that period at the end of the G1 series.
what
I
a
just
full stop is.
I don't trust you. They didn't do that. They didn't say the end there, bam, it's over. They just that extra little tease at the end with Galvatron and Zarek and Scorponok off out in space, just to let you know that it never ends. You know that the war goes on.
And of course, there was Headmaster RC. Don, to you.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have had, Dawn, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known who Don was if it wasn't for this episode.
Rang into being fully formed with the broadcast of
Venus
of
to Dano.
God.
Well, I've spoken with David Wise at several BotCons, and I really believe if he had been given the 5 episodes he was promised initially, that I think Rebirth would have been a lot stronger as something folks remember fondly instead of just being... It's kind of a joke to a lot of folks. It is. But the reason I love it is because the whole thing about toys and Transformers is kids imagining themselves part of this world. If you've got characters that are part human, it's easier to project yourself into those people to be part of that world. And the stories you could tell would be immensely more personal to a degree. That's to me, that was like a gateway into becoming a new generation of kids being part of the Transformers process, because you had an easier gateway because there's already humans that are part robots, but they're still themselves.
Yeah, I think, talking about like the 3, different series and 3 different approaches, I will give that Rebirth at least probably gives the most plausible, way in which like the humans and the Cybertronians would interact, because in the comic they never really explicitly say it, but you sure get the feeling that they're replacing organs with like robotic bits, and like chopping the people up.
And headmasters are just robots.
And headmasters are just robots, so you don't really have a human aspect, to it. But Rebirth really does put forward that story idea where it's like the humans are individual people, they have an advantage, and there's previous story, to back it up. I think, there's a episode, season 1 or season 2 episode where like Spike is doing something very similar to this, where it's like he's, helping them aim or something, and they talk about how, humans can, be partners with Transformers. So there's precedent.
Are you thinking of
well.
when Chip controlled Pro, JD?
Maybe, well, not that so much, but there was like another episode where it was like similar, but that may be it too.
Autobot Spike? What? Huh?
Yeah, that one too.
Yeah.
But I think that there's some precedent for him.
It's probably the more straightforward way of doing it, but it's also probably the least interesting one.
It's the least, yes.
Yeah. They ride around inside their head.
Is
that less interesting than, hey, we're Transformers that have been around for a long time, we just now showed up? I mean, is that really less interesting than that?
Well, no, I'm not talking about necessarily the backstory behind it. I'm just talking about the straightforward mechanics.
Well, the mechanics are creepy. Like, Daniel sitting in RC's head and looking through her eyes, that is immensely creepy.
That's the ethics. I'm just saying that the simple, straightforward fact of they ride around in their heads. There's no mental ball. I mean, that's the thing about Rebirth doesn't. I mean, part of it is the visuals of Rebirth, but it never seems entirely sure what the extent of the bond is.
Right.
You know, you
Because
have
binary
It's
Daniel
love.
bonding
It's love. That's the
you know,
bond.
The binary bonding is supposed to be a deal, but they never really get into that. Like I said, at least with the comics, they give you the impression that it's like, not only is there a mental connection between them, but yeah, we might be replacing some of their organs with like robotic parts and stuff.
Well,
you
I
know?
mean, no, I mean
Well,
that's
they say that, JD. They say,
yeah,
they say that
body-
in the comic.
completely
Yeah.
re-engineered. But in
Because
this, it's
light
like
comes-
I've built a door into their head. So if you just step through,
Right. You step into there, and then you're fine, and then you get to
And
wear
then
the
if I-
cybernetic suit made of their body, made of their heads.
and you'll feel like you're a part of one another somehow.
In a previous Transformers Rewind that we actually recorded today, we were talking about Showdown on the surface of the moon, and I wanted to mention something here. So we decided that in this episode in Rebirth that the Autobots and the Decepticons can survive without their head. They just can't transform or anything. Well, Black Zarak's head gets knocked off and like erupts into flames like in that episode, and he just flies off. You
Yeah,
know?
well, I mean, part of that is supposed to be because his actual headmaster is inside his tummy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just sort of, yeah. So, but it's just sort of strange dichotomy though, with the way that sort of handled.
Yeah,
there, and that's handled
it's
here.
treated like, oh my god, his head's knocked off, but he's still getting up and
He's
walking
okay.
around. What's going on? Ah! You know, whereas in this show, it's like, no, it's no big auxiliary memory circuits that we've never mentioned before. It's cool.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I think the biggest thing for me is I was sitting there thinking about this earlier, and it's like, do you ever think that Pounce and Wingspan sat around like a little while and later, and you know, and they're like, do you have any sevens? Go fish. You know, you ever thought that it's kind of weird that like Punch and Counterpunch turn into the same car? Like, yeah, I thought about that. You have any kings? Yeah, you know, and it's kind of weird that it's like you always see one or the other, but you never see them together, and they're both spies. I just think that's weird. Yeah, that's totally weird, man. You have any eights?
They're
Yeah,
weird.
I was going to say that's probably the most infamous moment from the whole Rebirth. It's not
Yeah,
the headmasters. It's the fact that they can't figure out that I hear my Autobot counterpart is close.
He's nearby. He's real nearby.
Real nearby.
Yeah.
It's like that's the equivalent of Clark Kent wearing glasses.
Yeah.
That's like me.
Nobody gets it.
That's like me on Alt Toys Transformers, just opening up a different account and posting something and trolling somebody, and like 10 seconds after posting something else.
Yeah.
That's exactly like that. So
like
one of my favorite things though about the episode is the intro, because we get flywheels, and flywheels is awesome.
When I saw this, Brian, I thought, all right, no more of this crappy third season animation.
Yeah.
They're using the toy footage. They're going to be using toy animation. No.
Yeah, the animation is lacking a little bit.
Does it mean anything that we have gotten this far into a conversation about Rebirth and not mention the plasma energy chamber like at all?
Okay, so
We're just following the example Beast Machine says.
Oh man! I mean, yeah, this does eventually connect back to Beast Machines, but like that's the whole thrust of this is like let's make another MacGuffin
out of
sort
nowhere.
of like, you know, yeah, sort of like the Matrix of Leadership, except it's kind of like the key to Vector Sigma.
Yeah. You know what really confuses me about the first episode of this regarding the plasma energy chamber is I can't tell from the script whether Optimus Prime is lying, confused, or just making stuff up.
yes,
Someone asked him, Optimus, what's the plasma energy chamber? It's a storage chamber. And he's like, what's the plasma energy chamber? It's a foundry. And I'm like, well, which is it, guy?
It's a foundry that stores energy.
So, like one thing I always liked about season 2 and season 3, when they talked about like the history of Cybertron, there was almost a delicacy to the way that they spoke about it, and you know, it wasn't just something they threw out there necessarily. There was usually some context or whatever. But like this is very much like Headmaster, just completely indelicate. It's like, oh well, it's the plasma energy chamber, and oh, I'm just going to go to Vector Sigma. No, I'm just going to throw this in there, and stuff just happens. There's
Well,
no
Vector Sigma, it's nice to see again. And that's
Yeah.
David Wise even remembering
That it exists.
that he wrote the key to Vector Sigma and that Alpha Trion was in there, and everything else. That's just a perturbing amount of continuity as far as the G1 cartoon is
Yeah,
concerned.
really, it's a shocking amount that there would be things referenced that happened more than an episode ago.
I must confer with Alpha Trion, but he's in Vector Sigma. No, I talked to him in the Matrix just last episode.
Yeah. Overall, though, I think we can all agree that this is just a fantastic episode.
I mean, in whatever way you want that to mean, fantastically horrible, fantastically bizarre.
Do you really honestly think it's terrible, JD? Like,
no,
seriously.
I don't, but that's what I was getting around to. Whether you think it's fantastically wonderful, it's fantastic. It doesn't matter what your context is. It is epically all the way, whatever that is, because there's actually, I mean, I love it. There's a lot of fun. The animation leaves a lot to be desired.
It's probably not ACOM's absolute worst work, but it's up there.
It's up there.
It's not quite the last few bits of Five Faces of Darkness bad.
One thing. Yeah. Oh, that's. Oh, yeah. I don't want to think about that. So one thing, like a potential season 4 that would have been great would have been the interaction between the partners and the masters, or the whatever you want to call them. And that there's a lot of great character interaction here, and there's a lot of great setup for that with the characters, the Nebulons and their partners, and I guess we've kind of almost been robbed of that. There's a lot of potential there that just never got to be.
Well, this is the only version of the Headmaster story where you would ever have got that either, because the comics did it weird, and the Japanese show never had it. Like, this was the only one where there was ever really, besides the occasional interactions of Fortress Maximus and Spike, which only came up once in a Budiansky story, and then Furman sort of ran with it. Furman ran with it in the most interesting way later. That was really that was the only real use of the idea that there were two minds, one body, was when Spike and Buster would battle for control at the end of the run. You had Zarak, and just Scorponok ceased to be. It was just Zarak inside in the Marvel comics under Furman. And this was the only one that could really have given us the two minds, one body, arguing. Yeah, and it's like you get that scene in the last part of the Rebirth where the heads all just jump off the bodies, and it's like, you little creeps.
Hey, we need our head.
That seems like the sort of thing this concept is rife with potential for that kind of conflict. Could
have been great.
And also one thing I always wish we got the episodes for would be, imagine how Carly would react to her son and her husband.
Oh, that's a great point. I've never thought of that before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the same time, one has to think is like, to be honest, like, it's nice to wonder, but it's not like the cartoon would have ever.
Oh no, I'm just.
I know. It's nice. It's like we could have got more episodes, and that would never have come up. It's it would have been absolutely fine. So Rebirth would have sat in the corner while the Wikis had dinner. And
so one thing I always like about season 3 is Spike is like this ambassador of Earth, and he's always treated with respect, and he somehow has expertise and negotiation and stuff like that. When this episode, he has like some sort of advanced theoretical understanding of physics. It's like, can you reverse the rockets? Well, that doesn't even make sense. But he made it work.
The polarity of the rockets. What?
Yeah. Well, no, Spike. What does he ask them to do? Can you? No, he does actually say, "Can you reverse its polarity from output to intake?"
Yeah, it's like,
and then, like, I suppose it can be done. And then you imagine Spike went off the screen, and they were just like,
"It worked."
Well, I suppose it can be done in like reverse physics.
It's going from blow to suck.
That's
intake. I don't think that's a polarity, Spike.
Spike, do you understand how a rocket works, Spike? Have you ever seen a rocket?
It's like a chemical rocket. I mean, that makes no sense.
It's like it shoots out one side, Spike. You're wanting it to shoot out of the other side of its head.
It's like refilling a balloon. Refilling a balloon, it works exactly the same way. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, if they built the rocket out of everybody's power packs,
yeah,
those power packs do have to be recharged. Maybe all those packs together drew the energy out of the sun.
Don't help him. Don't help him.
I've always thought about how kind of almost sadistic that is in a way, because it's like the Galvatron just basically ripped the power source from all the Autobots and used them as fuel, and just left them for dead. I'm surprised they were actually even able to function. Of course, I'm not really surprised in the sense that it's a cartoon and they're not going to just kill them like that, but I just always thought that was an incredibly just sort of cruel and realistic thing that would happen.
Well, I mean, I figured that the whole point was like then Vector Sigma was re-energized and the whole planet glowed with the light of Vector Sigma, and I'm like, oh, Vector Sigma gives life, so they all came back, and I always figured that's what that was supposed to, but maybe I'm reading too much into it.
That's what I thought too. I mean, I was exactly there with you.
So I really enjoy Galvatron's plan in this too. You know, it's easily overlooked because so little of the three-parter is actually about it, and it's everybody just doing the Benny Hill run around looking for the key to the chamber. But you know, Galvatron has moved Cybertron so he can destroy the sun, the Earth, and Cybertron, and just completely obliterate everything that's ever opposed him. Or like, Galvatron does not want control of Cybertron anymore. It is toys out of pram. I don't want it anymore. I'm gonna blow it up. You know, that's real season finale kind of plotting, and I do like that. It is a plot worthy of a season finale, a series finale.
And also, you could say that that's actually the sign of a sane Galvatron from the end of Web World, because that is not some half-baked loony Galvatron plan. He
was really still pretty loony in this episode, though.
He's not that loony. He only loses it whenever he finds out that they've got the Nebulans inside them. You know, he
hated that. Yeah,
I love that. He's going to shoot his own troops.
There's no love lost between he and Zarak. They like just hate each other. I
don't know. I think they kind of hate each other in that way that Megatron and Starscream hate each other. You know?
Even as from being a kid. The ending with Zarak and Galvatron basically arguing over who was going to lead and everything. That's just, I've carried that with me my entire life basically, and every single imagining of what would have come next just basically sprang forth from that. And when this was released or finished or produced, did they know that it was going to be the last episode, or did they think... It
seems like they did, yeah. David Wise, I think, has said a few times that he felt when he was writing it that it was the end.
Yeah, well, actually, Chris, he did, because he was told when it was taken to a three-parter that this would be the last series of the show. So he was told.
Why did they even do? Why did they even do it? Other than just to try to eke out some money to sell those toys, or
one last chance to sell toys.
Well, it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be a 5-parter, start of a new season. Then he got word that the show was ending, and they cut it back to 3.
I mean, because there's so much time it takes place between writing it and then voicing it and then animating it. It just seems like they would say, "Well, we have a script that's great. Thanks. We're not doing anything with it."
But there was probably a contract or something to someone. You know what I mean? It's like. And again, it's like, why not take it? You get 3 episodes to sell some toys, which is most of what this show is.
Oh my God, yes, the original chronic for new toys.
There's Sam Wise and so and Bristle Flick and Resin Fresin, and you need to buy all of them.
It's like, look how badass Six Shot is. He just took on all the aerial bots.
Wow. You won't be seeing him again, but buy the toy. 5 now.
Well, David said he found out not long after he was commissioned to write the 5-parter. I remember him saying, and he phrased it as "not long after." So there was, I mean, he had only just started writing the drafts when he found out it was going from 5 to 3. Because I asked him, "Is the stuff that you wrote that you didn't use available for publication?" He says, "I didn't even get that far, other than just scribble notes on paper." Yeah. So it must have been a fast decision.
It kind of sounds like any other G1 script, though. So I'm kidding. I love G1.
Yeah.
Yes.
So any final thoughts on this episode that we want to get out, Don? This is your episode. This is like the defining episode for you.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna say this without being too much of a screen time hog. The reason I've always liked Headmaster RC was because it was the best of both worlds. No Star Trek reference intended. You got
I'm sorry, Don. I want to say something horrible.
Nearly human.
And a small child? No? Okay.
No. RC is the last movie era character we have not gotten as a G1 toy. Yes, we have the animated toy, and it's a phenomenal toy, and I'm glad it was made.
Creo toy, the micro-change Creon looks pretty G1 to me.
Yes, yeah. But also, we never got the headmaster. The only headmaster that's not been released is also RC. So that one figure could fill so many places in people's collections from a G1
and so many people could fill
headmaster's
places. So.
I've always liked that character. I like a well written character, and RC in most of her incarnations has been fairly well written. It seems to me that one character could fill so many gaps in so many collections that it's a crime that it hasn't been done. And I want to see a good character get a good toy.
Don, if it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen in 2013 or 2014.
Definitely.
I mean, we're getting a freaking 2 foot tall Metroplex.
Kind of crazy, yeah.
And Aaron has your photo on his wall with a sticky note that says Headmaster RC. So you know that.
I don't doubt it.
I'm serious. I bet this is on someone's like year-end evaluation that they're going to get they're going to get a Headmaster RC out.
Imagine Aaron walking through the Hasbro development offices, hands behind his back, with a sort of lab coat on, walking in. So, where are we on that Headmaster RC? We're still working on it, sir. We haven't quite developed it. We're working, though. Very sorry. Mm-hmm. Oh.
But no, I would love to see one. I would buy 5 of them. I bought 3 Big Daddies. I will buy 5 of those.
That's why I like the character. And go Miko.